Have you ever stopped to think that that shiver at the back of the neck at the exact moment you remember someone who has passed away might not be a simple coincidence? Science and spirituality are beginning to converge on a fascinating point. Thoughts are pure energy. Allan Kardec, in the codification of Spiritism, already described this in the 19th century. And if this energy, in moments of deep longing or vulnerability, functioned as a lighthouse, a call so strong that it crosses dimensions and attracts a response at the most precise moment. But what determines this perfect timing? The answer is more complex and personal than you imagine.
So, if our thinking is that lighthouse, how does it really work? Let's imagine a scene that maybe you've lived or known someone who has lived. It's an ordinary day, the routine follows, but then, out of nowhere, without apparent reason, a memory of someone who has passed away comes with an overwhelming force. It's more than just a passing thought. It's a wave of longing that tightens the chest, a sadness that seems to arise from nowhere, or even a sudden feeling that you need help, of advice that only that person could give. In that moment, you emitted a signal, and not just any signal, but an emotional SOS.
The Spiritist Doctrine, based on the fundamental works of Allan Kardec, such as the Book of Spirits and the Book of Mediums, explains that thought is the universal language of souls. It is our most powerful tool for connection. When we intensely think about someone, we create a kind of luminous thread, a fluid link that connects us to that person, whether they are on the physical plane or the spiritual plane. Now, think about a moment of extreme pain, recent bereavement, or deep solitude. Your mind and your heart are not just thinking, they are calling out. And this call, this raw and unfiltered emotion, has immense vibrational power.
It is as if, in the spiritual world, the noises of everyday life were muffled and only the most sincere cries could be heard. The spirits who have affinity with you, especially those who love you, are tuned to your emotional frequency. They feel the turmoil that forms around you when you are in that peak of sensitivity. And it is precisely this gap, this window opened by your vulnerability, that they use to try to make contact. It is not by chance that so many apparitions or sensations of presence occur shortly after a loss or during a period of great personal crisis. The spirit is not there to frighten. Quite the contrary, it is an attempt at a response, a whisper that says, "I am here. You are not alone in this pain."
But here lives a crucial detail that many forget: mediumship. The famous researcher and medium Chico Xavier, in numerous of his psychographies and interviews, always made it clear that harmony is everything. And this harmony is not a special gift for few. To a greater or lesser degree, we are all sensitive. The difference is that in your moment of greatest emotional fragility, your natural antenna becomes more exposed, more open to the vibrations around you. You become more receptive without even realizing it. It is when your defense lowers that the signal from the other side manages to pierce the block and reach you, be it in a vivid dream, a feeling of touch, a familiar scent that arises from nothing, or that inner voice that brings a piece of advice at the right time.
Therefore, the first great piece of this timing puzzle is you. Your emotion is the primary trigger. But this leads us to a new and inevitable question. If emotion opens the door, why doesn't the spiritual visit happen every time we are sad? Why does it choose a specific night, a specific place, and not another? Is there an ideal scenario, a perfect condition for this encounter to happen? Because it seems that beyond what we feel, the world around us also needs to be in a very particular way for the invisible to become, for a moment, almost tangible.
So you are in that perfect emotional state, longing struck strongly, the heart is open, but the signal doesn't come. Why? Because where and when matter as much as how you feel. Think of the spiritual world as a vast ocean of radio frequencies. Your emotion is the music you want to hear, but to tune it in clearly, you need an environment with the minimum of interference.
It is there that physical factors enter the scene, which have a profound impact on the invisible. Let's begin with silence. Not just the silence of sounds, but the silence of agitation. The night, especially the early hours of the morning, is classically the most reported time for spiritual experiences. Why? Science can give us a clue. It's when the physical body is most tired, brain waves change, and the world around us slows down. Researcher and engineer Hernani Guimarães Andrade, founder of the Brazilian Institute for Psychophysical Research, dedicated his life to studying the interface between matter and spirit. His work suggests that our psyche, or our energetic body, becomes less stuck to the physical body in states of relaxation and drowsiness. It's as if our connection with physical internet becomes weaker, allowing another type of signal, more subtle, to gain access. Our natural defense is lowered, and the veil that separates the dimensions becomes thinner. But it's not just the time of day. The place is a fundamental character in this story. Have you ever entered an old house and felt a different atmosphere? Or returned to a place where something very important happened in your life, and it was taken over by a flood of memories? Places absorb energy. The idea of environmental memory, or psychic records, is explored both in parapsychology and Spiritism. A place where there was great suffering, intense love, or any violent emotion can become imbued with these vibrations. For a spirit, this place can function as an easier access point, a kind of established energetic portal. It's simpler to manifest where the barriers are naturally worn down by past stories. That's why so many accounts of apparitions are recurrent in certain specific locations.
And there is another factor, personal and powerful, loneliness. Not the negative loneliness, but that moment when you are truly alone, without distractions, without the TV, without the cell phone, without the conversation of others. In that moment of pause, your inner world becomes the main stage, and it is on this silent and clear stage that a whisper from the other side can finally be heard. The spirit, then, is not only responding to your emotional call, it is being strategic. It is waiting for the perfect setting to form. You emotionally open, the environment silent and receptive, and the place perhaps charged with the history that unites you both. It is a precise combination of factors.
But this still doesn't explain everything, because sometimes the apparition happens in the most common place, at the busiest time, breaking all these environmental rules. And it's precisely in these cases that things become even more intriguing. Why would a spirit choose to manifest itself in the middle of a party or in chaotic traffic if the environment is so hostile to sensitivity? Unless that exact moment had nothing to do with the environment and everything to do with something much larger that was about to happen to you, something that may have been written long before that day even began.
And that is where we arrive at the core of the mystery, the most profound explanation, and, in a way, the most comforting one. Because if emotion is the call and the environment is the channel, the absolute timing, that exact second that makes no logical sense, is often the signature of a greater plan. Spirituality, through works such as those psychographed by Chico Xavier and Divaldo Franco, constantly speaks about the reincarnation programming. Before we are reborn, in agreement with guiding spirits and loved ones, we set goals, encounters, and crucial lessons for our evolution.
Imagine that your life is a train journey. You have an itinerary, planned stops, landscapes you need to see. The spirits that love you are like the engineers in the control room, observing your route. Now, think of a moment where, distracted by pain or confusion, you are about to get off at the wrong station. Or worse, you are walking towards the edge of the tracks without realizing it. That spiritual signal at the precise moment, a smell, a voice, a sensation, is not a coincidence. It is a compassionate intervention. It is the control center activating an alarm signal programmed for that specific point of the journey, to prevent a serious deviation or to remind you of an important commitment of your soul.
They don't appear only when you cry. They appear when you are about to give up, to make a catastrophic decision, or in the exact moment you most need to remember who you are and why you are here. The exact moment, therefore, is the perfect convergence, your emotional openness, the energetic conditions of the environment, and the execution of a help marked in the divine clock of your evolution. Synchronicity is not chance. It is care. It is proof that even in the darkest hours, you are never, never truly alone.